Hello and welcome to Cybran gameplay for Dummies. As you may know from previous faction tutorials of this type, do not expect rocket science. If you want rocket science, watch the unit composition videos in the description and watch the unit comparison charts in the description. But this is just supposed to give you a short overview on what your faction is good at and how you can exploit its main assets. Let's get started with a brief overview on Cybran military. You can loosely categorize Cybran military into three categories. There are rush units, which are going to be the main asset of the Cybran military. There are stalling units, which are probably the weakest element, and any Cybran player who's forced to use stalling units a lot against a good opponent is most likely going to die eventually. And there are snipe units, which the Cybran nation could not exist without. So we are taking a look at each of these categories, and you should get an idea what these units do. So here we have the rush units. We have a rush unit for the land army on every tech level. Have the mantis spot. This is fast. And why is it important that it's fast? Well, basically, if you and your opponent have the same scale in production, then it means that your units will arrive in the relevant spots before the units of your opponent will arrive. And this gives you a time-based production lead and a defeat in detail advantage in this area. And it is very important that you use these units aggressively, so the fast speed actually matters. In the center we have the hoplite, and the hoplite is a very inexpensive T2 unit. And when you use this one, you want to make sure that you stay out of range of enemy short-range units. But it is still a very good unit, and if you mix it with some mobile missile launchers, then the T2PD is not going to stop it, because the MML is going to take out the T2PD, and the hoplite can get past and kill lots of things. So as I said, stay out of range, but otherwise this unit can raid just like any other unit. And on the right side we have the Loyalist, which is a unit that has been commonly rushed in previous 1v1 games. So Loyalist rush functions very much the same way as hard rush, except the Loyalist is going to be up and ready to fight before the harp enters the battlefield, simply because of the cost structure and build time of these units. Of course, a harp is going to kill a Loyalist in a 1v1, but since your Loyalist is going to outspeed the harp, you can use it where it hurts the Aeon player the most if you do your T2 skip. So this is also an option. You should familiarize yourselves with the concepts of a production lead, of tech lead and composition lead, as well as of raid. And if you understand the intuition behind these concepts, and you understand that you are always going to be either in a situation where you have a production lead or in a situation where you have a tech lead, and you know how to exploit it, then you can get good results with the Cybran nation. Let's take a look at the stalling units. So these are just two examples. We have the Rhino. This is basically a bad pillar. So in a 1v1 the Rhino kills a pillar, but the pillar is more cost efficient than the Rhino, and if you have an army of Rhinos against an army of pillars of the same cost, then the pillars are going to win. So you should not rely on the Rhino too much, and if an UEF player is forcing you to build it because you have to fight against the pillar spam, then this is a situation you want to leave and abandon as soon as you can, either by teching up or by going for a snipe. And on the right side we have the Brig. The Brig is basically a bad Percival, and just like the Rhino, it is trying to stall the opponent that is pressuring you, but it is eventually going to fail. If your opponent has the same mass invested in Percivals as you have invested in Brigs, then you are going to lose this fight, and you should not be forced to stall for too long. Similarly, the Cybran gun and stealth ACU is a stalling unit compared to the combat ACUs of other factions. In the mid game, the Cybran gun and stealth ACU lacks its important HP upgrade, and the ACUs of other factions are going to kill it. So The stealth and gun ACU can be used as a stalling unit at most and should not overextend. Now in the next category we have snipe units, and you can use stalling units either to buy time for the next rush or for the next snipe. And if you want to snipe, you have several assets listed here. So there is the TML-4, this is the stationary tactic missile launcher, and this shoots 4 missiles in total with each projectile it fires. And when a TMD is going to shoot down a missile, then the outer hull, the one of those 4 missiles, is basically going to be shot down, but the other 3 missiles are still going to arrive and hit the target. So a TMD not the most effective against TML-4 because of how many missiles this actually fires, but of course this only applies to TMD and not to flares. So the Volcano, for example, is flare based, and the Aeon is not going to fall for the 4 TML trick. Now the Corsair on the top right is a fighter bomber, and the emphasis is clearly on bomber and not on fighter, because the fighting capabilities of this unit are pretty bad, and if you use it against interceptors, then the mass for mass you're going to make a very bad deal. So just treat it like a bomber and pretend it doesn't have fighting capabilities, and then you're good. So you would typically use Corsairs in groups of 3 and send them at mass extractors or T2 power generators. In the power generator case, this is a guaranteed kill and you also destroy the wreckage. In the mass extractor case, you at least kill the mass extractor itself, even though the wreckage is going to survive and has to be reclaimed and rebuilt. But this is how you can snipe eco. And of course, the Corsairs can also attack the enemy ACU directly. Corsairs are the most difficult to evade T2 bomber in the game, so this is a T2 bomber that can actually snipe ACU somewhat reliably. And the naturally build power, as well as an upgrading factory, is also going to be a good target for Corsairs. So you don't always have to target the ACU or power, you can also look out for other targets. Now on the bottom we have the Fire Beetle. This is a suicide unit that is going to deliver area damage to a small area. This is a very high damage alpha strike, and then the unit is gone. This can be used to be dropped in the enemy base, and it damages pretty much any economic structure and build power. It can of course also take out the ACU, and usually you should drop it, because mixing it into your basic unit composition that you want to use around the enemy ACU is often going to make the enemy overcharge the Fire Beetles before they come in range, and I don't think it's cost effective to spam them. So these are your snipe units, and snipe whenever you see a sniping opportunity. Keep in mind that there are lots of snipe targets and not only the ACU. And you may also want to look at the concept of snipe-enabled ecoing. This is going to be very interesting for Cybran players in team games. Now to summarize everything, your primary strategy should be rushing and exploiting your production lead or tech lead. Then if your rush is not going to work anymore, then you want to examine the situation, and you want to find out whether you need to stall the enemy with your stalling units, or whether it's okay to try and rush again on the next tech level, or perhaps attempt a snipe. Naturally, your stalling units should depend on what your enemy is building, so trying to stall an enemy long-range gun ACU with a sensor upgrade by using a couple of rhinos is of course not going to work. So you need to really be careful to build whatever is currently needed, and also know the timings of your enemy faction. But generally I find Cybran gameplay relatively forgiving, so if an attack fails you're going to donate some reclaim, but usually you can try again, especially in lower rating range games. Now good luck, have fun, I hope this helped, and I hope you enjoyed.